So we don't know all the details, but Gomer apparently leaves Hosea and gets into such a mess that he actually has to buy her from the slave market. So whoever she's with, they put her on the block to be sold, which, by the way, Israel shouldn't be buying and selling slaves. This is another reason why God is against them, but nonetheless, this is something happening in Israel. Now, what's interesting here, if you research this, the price that Hosea pays for her, according to the Old Testament law, is the price of a slave gored by a bull, like stabbed by a bull. That is an injured slave that isn't going to be of much use to anyone. And so what's happening here? Here's what I think is happening. Gomer has been so, again, because she's repeatedly committing adultery, running off with men, going to these parties, living that wild lifestyle. Gomer has been so used up and thrown out by the men who have slept with her that she's basically being sold at a bargain price. There's a clearance sale for Gomers here at the slave market. Nobody wants her anymore. That's the value that her sellers saw in her, a slave gored by a bull. She was basically worthless and no good for anything. You imagine you want to buy a slave to work on your fields, but he's been injured, gored by a bull. Are you going to buy that person? He can't do any work. He's severely injured. That's the value the sellers saw in her. They had their fun with her. They've moved on to other things. And it's Gomer who's left to pick up the pieces of her life. Don't think that those who sleep around or who cheat are living fulfilling lives. They aren't. The reason why people fornicate and cheat and run around with a bunch of partners is because they're so empty and miserable inside. They think that next partner will fill them in the way that God, only the way that God can fill them. So I think that this was Gomer as well. And so when Gomer is sitting in that slave market waiting to be sold, she isn't looking back at her life choices with satisfaction and joy. At least I don't think so. She's looking back at her life with shame and regret, like all adulterers eventually do.